Hello, this is Nancy McCocken here at Living Karma Yoga. And Living Karma Yoga is a program that brings you all that the yoga world has to offer. From asana, which is posture, and that's what normally we think of when we think of yoga, is posture and physical practice. But there is so much more. There's breathing practices called pranayama, there are meditations, chanting called mantras, yantras, which are visual meditation techniques. We have lifestyle in Ayurveda, which is a sister science to yoga. We have travel, sometimes even fashion. And then there's some yoga for specific, I don't want to say problems or injuries in the body, but we all have little cricks, aches, and pains. And the aches and pains we have in our body generally are just stuck energy because we are an energy system. So all of these things is part of how we live in our karma yoga. Karma is taking yoga off the mat and into our lives. And here today with me to talk about hands and feet and how we take our yoga into our lives to take care of our hands and feet is my very good friend, Lynn Medow. Lynn was one of the very first people that I met before I moved here to Michigan from Southern Ohio. She kind of took me in and took care of me when I moved up here. She has, she's a 500-hour ERYT, which means she's an experienced yoga teacher. She's also a certified yoga therapist. So, and that's a pretty special thing, which means she can use yoga in therapeutic situations. She is our go-to if somebody has a problem that they want to address at the studio. We say, oh, go to Lynn, or call Lynn because she knows. And if she doesn't know, she knows how to find out. Anyway, she's here today to help me and to help you at home with hands and feet, which for many of us, you know, they get tight and a little arthritic, sometimes painful. And we do so much with our hands and feet, so it's nice to know how to take care of them. Take it away, Lynn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
First, before you sit down and be a student in your chair, look at your hands. Yeah. Admire them and thank them for all the work that they do for you.
Yep.
And the same thing for your feet. Mm-hmm. Okay. These are miraculous. They're works of art. So after we say thank you, then we'll begin.
Okay, good.
But right before, I'm sorry, one more thing. We're going to take a forward fold, and this is diagnostic. Soften your knees. You fold over the tops of your legs. Engage that low belly. And you're just going to come forward. You can start to straighten your legs. And what you want to just see is, what does it feel like in the back of your legs today? Just a diagnostic. And then soften your knees. And come all the way up to standing. And now you're ready to take your seat.
Okay, good, thank you. I forgot to mention, hello, I'm back here, that Lynn also is the founder and CEO, creator and CEO of Yoga by Design Foundation, which helps to pay teachers to teach people in underprivileged populations. Just wanted to get that in there.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
So we're going to sit down, and whether you're on the floor or in a chair, and if you're on the floor, it's always good to have a little bit of height, and then identify your right foot and pick it up. So Nancy will just pick it up and bring it across, and you're going to start massaging the bottom of your foot. If you find a little bit of an ouchy part, stay with it some. You're just trying to smooth it out. So we spend hours and hours standing on these poor little puppies, and it's very nice to take care of them. Then after you finish with the softer parts, the arch, okay, now we do have 3 arches in our feet. Mm-hmm. Okay, the major arch is this one, and that's called the medial arch. Okay, but there's also arch across the foot and on the outside edge of the foot, so we can massage a little bit on the outside edge. And then more towards the ball of the foot. And then up to the toes, and you spread your toes, spreading them apart. These toes, they have a lot to do with our ability to balance. So as the toes start to kind of come together or move in one direction or the other, it definitely affects our balance. And then you can take each joint of each toe and just press and pull gently on the joint. So we're just trying to lengthen and make space in the joint. And if you were doing this on your own, you may take a lot longer than what we're doing today. And then you can move back to your heel, massage on either side of the back of your heel. You know, every nerve in our body ends in our feet and is directly related to an internal organ or a joint. And so when we work on the bottom of our feet, we're really doing self-care for the rest of the body. And then take the the 4 fingers of your left hand and place your fingers in between your toes, stretching them apart. And you can pick up your foot and roll the foot and the ankle in one direction and then the other. Sometimes it's a little hard if your feet are tight to get those fingers in between your toes. And this is really fascinating always to me, is then now take your right hand and put your fingers in from the top. Oh, this is much tighter. Oh, the tops of the feet are much tighter than the bottoms. A little bit harder, isn't it, Nancy, to get it in between?
It is.
Yeah. Roll. And then, might take a little bit to remove those fingers. Stretch your legs out in front of you, and Nancy can do it on the floor, just putting her heels on the floor. And as you point and flex your feet, feel the difference. Does the right foot feel a lot different than the left? Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but for me, my right foot feels just a little softer, looser. And then let's go to the other side. We begin again. Generally, and I'm not sure why, one foot is always a little bit more sensitive or a little ouchier than the other. And our arches aren't necessarily the same from the right to the left foot. Then we move up to the ball of the foot. The separation between the bones. And then separating the toes and pulling on them, just as we did on the other foot. It's important when you press that you press on the joint, so you're stabilizing the joint and then pulling. As you move up each toe. And the order doesn't make that much difference. You can pick up your foot and massage the outside arch. And then towards the heel. So one of the very good reasons to keep the bottom of your feet very soft and supple is to prevent and to treat plantar fasciitis. So that's when the fascia moves away from the bone. And then if it begins to tear at the heel, that's when we get the heel spurs, which I understand is very uncomfortable. So we really want to prevent tightness in the bottom of the feet. And then the back of the ankle. Now, the nerve endings right here affect our sexual organs. So for the women in the audience, if you have any menstrual cramps or issues, massaging back here can relieve some of that discomfort. And then, I think we did everything on this side.
We didn't stick our
Oh,
fingers
yes,
through
thank you, Nancy. So from underneath, we'll put our fingers in between. And then roll. So generally what happens if you haven't done this before, things can be pretty tight, but if you do it more regularly, you'll find that your feet will really start to loosen up and your whole body will feel better. We'll find that out in a moment when we do our forward fold again. And then you'll do it from the top. And after you can get them in there.
Hard.
Yeah.
Especially the second and third toe. And then we'll stretch both feet out again, point and flex, and flex. And here's a fun one. So slightly bend your left knee and then take the narrow part of just above your heel, okay, and place it in between your first and second toe. And just rock apart so you can feel the toes stretching. Now for some people you might find this very, very difficult to do, so you can also use the side of your foot if it's hard or more difficult to get the back in there. This is something you can easily do when you're lying in bed or, you know, playing with your toes, watching TV. And then let's switch. Slightly bend the right knee and get the back of the ankle just above. Who knew that that 14 minutes of footwork can make such a difference?
It's amazing.
Isn't it?
That's why people love to have foot massages.
Right. So it's a kind of a self foot massage.
That's right. And now, just for fun, you're going to stand up again, okay, soften your knees, and come into your forward fold. And you can start to straighten your legs and just feel that, generally what happens is you go much deeper. You can really feel that the tension in the bottom of the feet and releasing it has definitely loosened up the hamstrings.
Cool. Great.
Feel the difference. Yep. So now I'm going to come back down and Nancy's going to modify because I'm coming to hands and knees. So we're going to work a little bit more for the feet. And I am going to curl my toes under. And so Nancy, you can do it by lifting up your heels. Yeah, and pressing down. Sometimes you have to kind of give those little toes a little help there. And the first thing I'm going to do is roll forward and back a bit. And Nancy, you can do the same thing. So the tendency here is they want to roll out, so I'm trying to keep my heels together. And then, for those who are able, you're going to, and if you're on the floor, sit back on your heels. Now let me say this, if you have any screws or plates in your feet, this is not for you, and you can modify either doing it in the chair or standing at the wall. And generally you know what your limitations are. And if you would like a little bit more here, you can lean back. And then for those who have any trouble with their knees, a nice thing to cushion is you can cushion underneath and also behind your knees. So you take a blanket and you put it in very tightly behind, and that takes the stress off the knees. I'm going to move that for now. So then just come on forward, and Nancy, you just pick up your feet, and you want to roll your feet and your ankles in one direction and then the other. And this is good because it brings synovial fluid into your joints, and that's like the grease of your joints. And then you want to sit with your toes pointing straight back. Generally what happens here is your big toes want to come together, so you want a number 11. So Nancy, you could do one foot at a time, curling under, yes, or you can try both feet too. Here what we're doing is stretching the tops of the ankles more than anything. So let's say that this is very uncomfortable, but you know, there's no reason you shouldn't do it. Then you can take a blanket and put it underneath. So why is it important that we stretch the top of the ankles? Most of the nerves of proprioception, of our feeling of our body in space, are in the front of our ankles. So when your ankles are tight, your ability to balance and to know where you are in space can be affected. So then you're going to pick up your feet here and roll your feet and your ankles in one direction and then the other. So then what you're going to do if you are on the floor is take your feet off to the side and put the bony part of the top foot into the arch of the left foot. So this may work when you're sitting in a chair, but you can also then roll the arch with the namastick or the tennis ball. So here what I'm doing is I'm really a deep self-massage here, and you can just stay with it. Or if you've done this a lot and you feel it's okay, you sit up on it. Now again, you're going to find one arch to be much more sensitive than the other. So what you can do here is lift up a knee, move it around. And generally when you first start doing this, you might feel, my foot's going to break, and it won't. Again, making sure that you don't have any other issues. You always check with your doctor first. And then we release, and then we'll take it to the other side, putting the bony part on, rolling. How's that feeling, Nancy?
Interesting.
Okay. I get that a lot.
Interesting.
So, as I always say to people, that you know, we do one side, we have to do the other side, but thank goodness we only have two sides.
Right?
And then you put the other knee down. We pick up our feet, and again, roll your feet and your ankles in one direction. And Nancy, you can do that way too, or that way. Yeah. So a common pose in yoga is downward facing dog, where you lift up and back, and now your feet are really ready to do that as you learn how to spread your toes and reach your heels back. And then we're going to come down, because when we do yoga, we do have a tendency to put weight on our hands. And no, we're not going to be doing any handstands today, but our hands are the first part of our body that lose strength as we age. So keeping the hands as strong and as flexible as we can makes a lot of difference in our lives. So Nancy, you can either do some of these things against the wall, okay, or put your hands flat on the chair. But first you can just start sitting on the chair, good, and bring your right hand up in front of you. Take your left hand and press the hand away. And then press down and press your hand back. Feel this stretch on the top of the arm.
Oh yeah, all the way up to the shoulder.
Shoulder. And then switch hands. So if you think about how many hours we spend of that, how this gets very tight, the top of our arms. And so reversing that really can make a huge difference in not only the comfort in your hands, but all the way up the arms, your shoulders, and your neck. And then slowly release and make either gentle fists or just move your hands around. I caution you not to shake your hands out after doing something like this because it does destabilize things, and you want everything to kind of get gently back into place. So it's better not to shake your hands out. And now what you're going to do is make a gentle fist with your right hand. Take your left hand and press that fist down. You should feel a nice stretch in the back of that wrist, right? And then on the other side, other hand. And then release, move them around. And you don't need to be sitting back on your heels for that long if you find it challenging. And then what you want to do is press your hands forward and up. Take little side bends from side to side, trying to pull your hands apart a bit.
This is one of my favorites.
And then bring your hands down, release, and then do it again, but put the non-dominant finger on top. Sometimes it's the one where you have to roll your eyes up because you got to think about that, and then pull. Then circle your arms down and around. And here's when you can be on the wall or at the chair, pointing your fingers in towards each other on your legs, a great option. Swaying from side to side, picking up the base, wrists, and then turning your hands around as far back as you can. And again, either side to side or forward and back. Again, if you have any metal plates or screws in your wrists and you know who you are, you don't need to be doing this, and you modify. There's always a way you can get a bit of a stretch without harm. And release again, and the same thing. You just do this little rolling because it's a synovial fluid. And the last one is either you can go back to the one that we did at first, or you can put your hand down. Now, if you really feel this, you take your hands closer back towards you, or you're here and you make a fist. If you're able to do both at once, you can do both at once and roll, or you do one hand for a few breaths and then the other. And then once again, release, make gentle movements, and circle your arms up. Now here what you want to do is interlace your fingers like you mean it, and have the pointer finger point forward, trying to press your palms together. Okay? And then take an inhale and bring your arms up. And exhale, take a side extension to the right. Inhale, draw up. And exhale to the left. And inhale, draw up. And exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart. Now, as you press your palms together and allow your elbows to point out to the sides, this is a wonderful way to get your shoulders in the best placement for you, as you want your shoulders to be straight across and the bottom of your shoulder blades drawing together. And when your shoulders are in your right place, it affects your arms, your wrists, and your hands. You might take a gentle bow of your head just to stretch the back of your neck, pressing your hands together. Taking a few moments of breath just to settle. And then release your hands and place your hands on your thighs with your palms open.
Thank you, Lynn. And thank you for tuning in. Lynn teaches 4 classes at the studio. You can find the schedule online at www.karma-yoga.net. We hope to see you at the studio. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Lynn, for being here.
Namaste.
Namaste.